Hey, Evelyn. Hi, we're live.
Hi.
Hey, happy to have you here. Thank you so much for joining. And I'm super, super excited to have this chat with you today and dive into many, many questions that I have. But first, before we dive in, maybe let's give some context to the people who are watching. Maybe you can tell us a few things about you, just a quick introduction about who you are. Who is Evelyn?
Sure. Yes. I'll start. I'm the CEO of the Singularity Group. I founded the company roughly 5 years ago, not quite. Before that, I was a equity analyst and portfolio manager, and a little bit before that, I was a biochemist and food scientist. So I'm born in Nuningen, a small town in Switzerland. I spend a lot of time there, but also in Los Angeles, London, and then Zurich.
Quite a diverse background.
If you will.
Great. So let's dive right in. First thing, I want to go a little bit more into your, into your essence, so to say, just to really to
Hmm.
understand a little bit more about what's driving you and who you really are at the core.
Mm.
So, if you had to sum up Evelyn in just like one word, the essence of Evelyn in one word, what would that word be and why?
Okay, I was thinking about that question with relation to the company first, but I hope it relates to me as well, or maybe it relates more to what I hope I can do, and that would be evolve or evolution. We can dive into why that is, but
Yes,
that's the word.
please.
Um, I didn't know this when I started the company or for anything I ever did, but I think what's driving me now is a feeling that you constantly want to learn from your surroundings and evolve and grow. And I hope that the company we built can do that for the people that learn from us, the experts that work with us, and also the people that work operationally at the company.
Tell me more about that. I mean, this sounds like a very strong and very clear purpose that you're pursuing there, or a reason why. I guess it has a lot to do with why you're getting up every morning and go do the work you do. So tell us a bit more about that.
I didn't used to think that that was it. You know, you built when we built the company, we wanted to do something better than we thought the rest of the world was doing it, and that was manage funds or build investment portfolios or find companies that can survive and progress. And once you spend a lot of time figuring out that, you learn a lot about what works in the world and what works for people around you. And then you start realizing what works or doesn't work most of the time. Things don't work for you. And you try to figure out how to change those things. And I think, I don't know, somebody once asked me that, but I didn't know the answer. But somebody once asked me what excites me about this. And I think I just keep seeing areas where I could, or people around us, or technologies can evolve and change or be applied in a different way. And once you keep looking out for that, it gets exciting. And so that's become a little bit of not the purpose or the thing I would strive towards, but the side effect that's made it an interesting journey that I don't want to go away from anymore.
I'm very excited to dive more into that when we talk about, the company, but also your journey overall. But before we go there, I'm just curious a bit more about your your past, and sort of like what shaped you to be who you are today. So if you would have to like pinpoint like maybe one defining moment that really shaped you as a human being, really shaped you as a leader to become who you are today, what would that be? Is there something you can think of that really shaped you, that really impacted you along the way?
I'm thinking, I don't think I have one particular defining moment, but I'm trying to think hard about definitely something that has changed me. And I guess it's not a moment, but it's over and over, maybe realizing that everybody has some sort of intuition, natural intuition, or I think I keep having that, and I think people around me and people who build companies, because we work with entrepreneurs on our think tank, keep realizing that they learn a lot that they're not aware of. And I think this happens over and over again when you kind of have an intuition, don't follow it, ask others for advice, follow that advice, and in hindsight realize that you might have had a hunch. But that doesn't mean you were right? That just means you can trust yourself. So I think what's changed the company over and over again is people at our company over and over again realizing what their real strengths really are and trusting those, and outsourcing anything that isn't their strength. But that's not one moment. That's a reoccurring one, I would say.
But I guess it's like, maybe it's more of an experience instead of a moment.
Yeah.
I think I'm still working on the wording to make sure I get the right, essence of these things. But it's really interesting. I think it's really an experience that you just mentioned that, shaped you or shaped your thinking in that direction. So we've already been talking a little bit about the company, so I want to really dive into that right now. So maybe you could just give like a just couple of brief sentences about the company, just to give some context, like, what is it that you guys do, and sort of like what are some of the things?
Sure. I mean, we're a company that's built on the idea that, if you want, the original idea is really, if you want to build investment portfolios, you need to invest in companies that can not only stick around, but also change, evolve, adapt, progress. And we thought that the defining factor in that wasn't what people tried to figure out, which is analyzing balance sheet and income statements and management teams, and trying to figure out if they can do that, basically stick around in the future and shape it. But we realized that the one thing that made companies kind of sustain themselves and build sustainable systems is constant innovation. It's constant evolution as well, right? Constantly realizing where and how you could do things better or differently to change things for the better, really, for your company. And so we built an investment methodology that screens for that, which is innovation, and not in the sense of where money is being spent or efforts are being made to innovate, but more the proof of it. And so we're looking really for what I think investors should be looking out for, which is cash flows, revenues, income through innovation. And so most of our time we spend identifying, or discriminating between, is something, a product or a service, part of an innovation value chain, or is it not? And so once we know that, which is the most difficult part, I think, for us, we build an innovation score. It's called the Singularity Score, and we use that to weight the companies in our portfolio. And so we build the Singularity strategies. These are innovation strategies, portfolios that look for cash flows and innovation.
Interesting. So thanks for the introduction. Now a little bit more into story. I mean, I think it's just like the next follow-up anyway on that, but what's the story? Like, why that? Why this? Why that's? Because it's very specific, I feel, right? It's very specific. Why that? Is it because of the frustration you had before in the market, or where does it come from? Why that area?
It was a frustration. You pointed out. I think, maybe that was also a defining moment, because there was definitely a moment or a phase where I was in theme teams at companies, building thematic portfolios. And what you did there is you try to identify a theme. A theme is always something that you think is happening or will happen in the next few years. And you try to find companies that are exposed to it. And it's weird, because most companies will tell you that they're benefiting from an aging population, they're exposed to the metaverse, or, they're going to be part of it or something like that. So I think I had some sort of frustration that investment portfolios were built more to sell a story, which is what we also do, right? But they weren't focused enough on building companies that could really benefit from it. And I think that was a bit of a frustration. And the other one was, I was an energy and resource investor, and that's where you really invest in cash flows. You try to understand value chains. And I had conversations with my co-founder now. At the time, he was a friend, Tobias Reichmuth, about why don't we try to build technology, innovation related portfolios that focus on cash flows. Isn't that the way you should be building any portfolio? And that was a frustration because I didn't see it happening anywhere, and I wasn't able to make it happen where I was at the time. And then his answer was, hey, well, if you have such a clear view of how you want to do it better, why don't you do it yourself? And that moment did get me thinking, like, why don't we, right? And my answer at the time was, I can't, I don't have any money, I don't have investors, I don't know where to start. And he basically said, I have some money, I have some investors, and I think I know where to start. And that's how the company was founded.
Cool. What a nice story.
It's not the typical story, right? I never had the idea that I'm not one of those entrepreneurs that always wanted to be one. So there definitely was a little bit of a different story. Yeah.
Cool. And if you look back now on your journey so far, with the company that you had, what's something that you're most proud of that you've accomplished as a company that that you've overcome maybe as well? What's something that you feel really proud about?
Yeah, I think, well, it's two things, and it's mostly related to people. I don't know if pride is the right word, but I'm really glad and happy every day to be interacting with the people we're interacting with. And that goes for definitely the team that we've gotten together. So I would be proud of finding those people and getting them to join a small company with a much lower salary than they would otherwise. So, convincing amazing, really talented, amazing people to just come join us and be excited about it. So I think that's something that we managed to do as a team, but I also played a big part of or in. And the think tank members that we've been able to, get into our think tank, these are also amazingly high caliber people that know a lot, work on important things to change the world for the better. And they join us for group calls, and they inform us about their struggles and their successes. And then last but not least, I don't think I ever in my career had this many interesting conversations with clients. And I guess the times bring about interesting conversations as well. But I think it has to do with the kind of stories we talk to them about and the things that are happening in technology. So it's way more interesting now than my life used to be before, just because of the kind of people we interact with.
When you talked about the first part about the talented people join you, what the picture I had in my mind was like from the movie with Steve Jobs, him, selling the new CEO his role and saying, do you want to sell soda water your whole life, or you want to come with me and change the world?
I don't know. I don't think I ever recruited people that way. I don't think, maybe I should try and do that. Do you want to come with me and change the world? But it's more about the kind of interactions that people will have when they join us and doing things completely differently. So it's not easy actually to find people that are willing to do that leap. Because a lot of people are convinced that things are the way they are for a reason. So bringing on people that are amazingly talented that could get very important roles at other companies to still join us and try something reasonably new. I think that's quite cool.
And talking more about the future, what's your vision for the company for the future? Sort of like, or what's your end game? Where do you see the company, in years to come?
I don't have an end game. I think the danger, I don't think anybody ever should have one, because this kind of innovation evolution is forever, right? So I think the end game is to make sure that you constantly reinvent yourself in a certain way, and that you constantly understand what the world needs to stay alive and to progress. And that's what we do when we select companies, but trying to apply that to yourself is another animal. And doing the same thing, you selecting the companies in your portfolio for making sure you also have that is kind of our ongoing end game. We're not the kind of company that has necessarily an exit plan. We think that we can do this, standalone, and that this is how anybody should manage equity portfolios, at least. So I think the end game is to convince investors, but also other companies to focus on this and to maybe to stop building portfolios that have nothing to do with what you're actually, with the value you're actually trying to create. That's maybe also an end game, weeding out what I think shouldn't be done.
Yeah, you know what, something that I remember, like the first time I met you was in Vaduz. You were on stage and I saw you speak there to this group of finance professionals. And what really stuck with me was, you know, how everything you do is not just for the sake of, you know, growth or achievement, but it has so much to do with change, but actually changing the way people think, changing the way investment is done, changing the way investment is measured, changing how innovation is measured. And I find that really, really interesting about how much of your journey or how much of everything you guys are doing is about change, changing perception and changing the way people work and how people act and how things are done. I think it's a big aspect of what you guys are doing.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, I think, you know, I mean, what it sounds like an annoyance or a frustration or almost something that we want to weed out, but really, I think the finance industry, of all that I've experienced, is very infested by itself, right? Once somebody does something in large enough, others follow, and they're kind of tainted by the view of how things should be done. That's why others do ETFs. You also do ETFs. If themes work, you sell theme funds, right? But it's all like, this is the way you go about it. ESG comes about and everybody, you know, starts to do ESG a similar way, and everybody tries to convince everyone that theirs is unique. But there's no, I mean, the frustration in asset management or wealth management is that nothing's really unique anymore. There are no original ideas anymore. And this is a different way to think about things. And so we're not trying to be secretive about it, you know, so that we can sell more than others because we do this secret special thing. And I really believe that it's the way people should start thinking about investing, which is, does what we're filtering for really create value? Because that's also what, I mean, leaving all the other stuff aside, right? What investors want is to create value for themselves or for whatever purpose they invest. And that's gone lost across the industry, I think. And we need to, you know, start making people rethink. And if that makes other companies rethink, that's great.
I love that. So something else I wanted to talk to you about was your journey, basically, you've been on, and just the lessons a little bit more about what you've learned along this way. Because I think you had a lot of diverse experiences, you know, in your background, even before your company as well, but also the past couple of years, I think, have probably been very intense and probably also very insightful. And talking about evolution, I think the only way you can evolve is by learning, right? And by, you know, learning from, or adjusting and changing based on what you learn. So I'm super interested to hear a little bit about your lessons that you learned along the way. Are there certain things that stand out to you where you say, okay, this is really something that stuck with me, that I learned along the way, that had an impact on me?
Yeah, you mean just in the company or before?
Could be anything.
Anytime. Yeah. I mean, the reason the company is, for example, built on a rules-based investment methodology is that I learned not only for myself, but through my own experience. You know, just because you can't do something doesn't mean nobody else can. But I think a lot of investors and a lot of clients, you know, both sides of investing, they feel like there's this, some people just figure it out all the time. That's why some people select for this one team or this PM, and they feel like they'll get it right over and over again. What I learned is some people get it right now and not the next time around, but there's nobody that really gets timing right ever, you know, consistently. And I mean, I had to learn that the hard way, because I kept feeling, I think for 4 years, that I could eventually, you know, learn from my mistakes and figure it out. And I think the one thing I learned is that you can do intense rational analysis of everything in your life, but in the world, but mostly in investing as well. You can apply anything to your life, and still emotions will get ahead of you, and you'll still make the wrong decision, or one that wasn't good for your portfolio, at least. And so I think that's one thing that I realized, and decided then to build a company that had it the other way around, that you would rigorously spend time figuring out how does innovation really create value, and understanding innovation value chains and that there was some discretion to that is necessary because there's no really easy way to quantify it. So that's kind of the discretionary qualitative element of our work. And then, but rationally applying rules to that. And I think that worked out very well for our investment portfolios. That's something that, you know, we've been working on, but that's something I learned in my previous career, I would say. Otherwise, I mean, it's constant evolution. I think we used to build these investment portfolios thinking that if they worked, people would buy them. You still have to inspire people with a story. And that doesn't mean making some cheap marketing story, but really, you know, finding out the right way to communicate what you learn. And I think we do that exceptionally well because we work with entrepreneurs that have these learning experiences and transport them to us directly. And the second reason is because we have people in our marketing team that are immensely talented, you know, that have this gift of translating these things to the world in a very simple way. But that's what people often lack, you know, this simplicity. And I think I learned to really spend most of my time figuring out what you're not so good at, realizing that, not feeling too, you know, once you realize what you're bad at, it's not that painful anymore. It's only painful if you don't accept it. And finding people that can help, you know, make up for whatever weakness you have. And I learned that you don't always have to work on your weaknesses. You just need to find people around you that can help you make up for them. A lot of people don't agree with that, right? A lot of people feel like you need to fix. A lot of companies are built on all these assessments and reviews and making you better. And I think what we're built on is making sure people apply their strengths as well as they can. And that makes you be able to, as a network or as a community, not have to be so susceptible to your weaknesses anymore. I think that's the evolution of the company. We've had a lot of turnover, not because people weren't good enough, but because, you know, we needed to find that kind of set of personalities and characters that were open for that. It's not easy. I have to say what I learned, that's trivial, obviously, is that it's much easier for younger people to form than older ones. And it's really difficult to find people above 35 that are willing to go through that learning journey. But I think also there we found a unique set of people that are willing to go through that. So I think the evolution that we've gone through is really a people one more than anything. And having those people on board helped us change things in the company, processes, all the way to how we manage our data. And it allowed people to feel strong enough about their strengths to bring them into the company and to dare to voice them. This is difficult when you come in somewhere where things are running a certain way to suggest new things. And I think we've managed to find a set of people that are very, very confident in you know, early on suggesting better ways to do things. But that's because you allow them to focus on their strengths and to kind of rely on others to make up for their weaknesses. I think that's kind of the summary of our evolution. I hope it stays this way. I think if we can keep this, maintain that kind of attitude, also grow this way, the company and the team, that would be pretty cool.
I love that, you know, and I fully agree when it comes to the strengths and weaknesses. I mean, if all of us, you know, would have our unique strengths, right? And then all we would focus on is make up for our weaknesses. At the end of the day, what we would end up with is everybody's the same. Everybody's pretty much the same okay level with everything. Nobody will be great, and nobody will be incredibly bad, but we would have a global workforce that will be okay-ish at everything. I'm not sure if we want to go there.
Yeah, exactly. And the good thing is, you know, then you can really go full force, because you're going full force with whatever you think you're good at or feel good at. And if you have a team that makes up for whatever you're not so good at, you kind of know they have your back. And only that, you know, it's not just you feeling good at what you are good at, but also knowing that people are around to have your back is what makes you really dare. I think it's an important element to fill in those gaps. And I guess what we spend time on most of the time is figuring out what we're still lacking and making sure we get some people that have that back into the team.
Yes. Yes, and there's one last question I have for you, which is a little bit more like out there or up in the clouds, but I always love to ask that, which is like, so let's imagine now you're 80 years old, you're sitting on your terrace or somewhere in your rocking chair, and you're looking back at your life. What is something that you would love to see changed in the world?
Cool. I'd love to say I mean, that's what what I currently feel. So I don't think that's going to be what I feel then. I know that by then I will have another view. But currently, if I was 80 today, I think or you know, if you knew you were going to die, it would be that it's all related to people, that there was this, maybe the world would have changed in a way where you don't have to walk on eggshells so much when I don't know, that's my vision for people's personal lives, that you don't have to think about too much about how other people might feel, because you trust in them being able to understand you. But I think that's what everybody wants.
Mm.
I've once been suggested to give up on that, you know, wanting to be understood. But I think this ability of everybody to be true to themselves, and that doesn't mean ruthless and rude. That means where where most people are in tune with themselves enough to be able to share who they really are. That would be amazing.
I love that. That's a big one, and I love that very much because yeah, I think it would lift us up as a global human species to another level if we would be able to do that, and also, you know, if we would be able to do that in a way that truly expresses ourselves, and you know, not in terms of stepping on other people's foot because, you know, we are maybe a little bit too direct or something like that too, but also just by, you know, feeling that if we express ourselves, then, you know, we're gonna stand on somebody else's foot, and I would absolutely love to see, because I
Yeah,
think it'd be a very different kind of world that we will live in.
it takes work on both sides, right? It takes work on the listener side, give people the benefit of the doubt, and it takes work on the person's who's communicating side to articulate. I think the way to get there is to help people better articulate who
Yes.
they are. But you had a nice, final word. I don't want to cut that one off.
No, I thank you so much. That was really, really nice. It was an awesome conversation, and really happy to have you here. Thank you so much,
Thank
Evelyne.
you, Danny. Thanks for
And
having me.
yeah, people can find you on LinkedIn, of course, you know, connect, share, exchange. And once again, thanks a lot for sharing.
Thank you. I'm sure I'll have more thoughts. So thanks for putting them in my head, those questions.
Thanks, Evelyne. See you soon.
Ciao. Bye.